Hollywood is officially on strike. Today, 160,000 actors joined about 11,000 writers on the picket lines. From coast to coast, both big names and small took to the streets to stand in solidarity with SAG-AFTRA. The union's president, Fran Drescher, was among them. Take a listen to what she had to say.
The whole business model has changed, and if they don't allow us to change the contract to reflect on the new business model, what are we talking about? We're moving around furniture on the Titanic. We're all going to be put out of business, and it's crazy.
Joining me now is NBC's Dana Griffin. Dana, this is not just about money, right? There are a number of issues here. Break that down for us.
Yeah, I mean, the big part of it is money. They want a bigger piece of the pie. That's why they want to get higher residuals for the work that they do that airs on streaming. Right now, there's no way to really calculate that data, or at least according to SAG-AFTRA, they feel like the streaming companies aren't providing that. They also want protections against artificial intelligence. They want to make sure that their images, their voices aren't being used in perpetuity without them getting paid for that. And they want respect. I spoke with SAG-AFTRA President Fran Drescher this morning. She says that if they don't do something now, this is going to put them in jeopardy and risk all of their jobs. So that's why they are taking a stand, and they say they are willing to wait this out.
Dana, how big of an impact will this have for actors and those of us who just love watching movies and TV shows?
Well, for the actors, they are not getting paid, so that can be very difficult. For viewers, this could likely change the fall TV lineup. You're likely not going to see our favorite shows, at least the productions for them. We're going to see a lot more reruns. You could see more reality TV and game show productions, and you're not going to see your favorite stars on the red carpet. In fact, Universal Pictures announcing today that they are canceling the red carpet for their U.S. premiere, Ellison, of Oppenheimer.
Do the two sides have any plans to return to the negotiating table?
They're going to have to return one day, but right now both have dug their heels into the sand, and no one is budging at this point. We've heard from some industry experts who have talked to some of these studio execs that they believe they're going to try to push this out until October. But I spoke to the SAG-AFTRA president. She says that there is no way they are willing to cave, but eventually someone's got to do it. So it's going to be a waiting game to see who is going to finally say, okay, let's make a deal.
NBC's Dana Griffin, thank you so much. And we should also note that Comcast, which is the parent company for NBC Universal, is one of the entertainment companies represented by the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers. After more than a decade, a suspect has been arrested in a string of serial killings on New York's Long Island. Today, police arrested 59-year-old Rex Heuermann in relation to a string of homicides that have been known as the Gilgo Beach murders. Between 2010 and 2011, 11 sets of human remains were found on a stretch of highway in New York's Suffolk County, about 40 miles east of New York City. Police say the alleged killer targeted sex workers and dumped their bodies in remote areas, sometimes wrapping those bodies in burlap sacks. NBC's Emily Ikeda has the latest.
Rex, did you do it?
Handcuffed and flanked by authorities, Rex Heuermann taken to a Long Island courthouse today in a case that has confounded investigators for more than a decade.
Rex Heuermann is a demon that walks among us, a predator that ruined families.
Victims' families tearful as authorities announced the 59-year-old father and husband was charged with first and second-degree murder of 3 women, Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello. Their remains discovered within a quarter-mile stretch near Gilgo Beach back in 2010. In all, 11 bodies were recovered in that area during sweeping search efforts, sending a wave of fear over Long Island residents.
I know there's a community out there that, as the facts unfold, will be sleeping a lot easier tonight.
After following him through the city last night, captured on this surveillance video, today investigators searching Heuermann's Manhattan architecture firm and home in Massapequa Park, New York. Key evidence accumulating this year, including the recent discovery of his Chevrolet Avalanche towed from his property today. A witness to one of the victims' disappearance had described that vehicle according to court documents. Police say Heuermann was also tied to burner phones, seen here loading more minutes onto the device. And authorities pulled his DNA from pizza crusts tossed in a Manhattan trash can. Neighbors on Long Island stunned to learn of the suspected serial killer living next door.
The guy's been quiet, never really bothers anybody. we're kind of shocked, to tell you the truth.
But tonight, authorities say the investigation is not over.
The work is not done here, but this is a major, major step forward.
Jessica Taylor's remains were discovered in 2011. Heuermann is not charged with her murder today, but her cousin hopes this arrest will bring answers.
I'm hopeful for the future, and I'm hopeful that a connection is made.
And Heuermann's lawyers tonight say he broke down in tears and insisted on his innocence. Right now, he's being held without bail behind me on those murder charges. In Ellison, investigators say that he is the prime suspect in another death, too. The district attorney tonight calling this a watershed moment. Ellison?
Emily Aketa, thank you for that. From Florida to California, a very dangerous heat wave is scorching many U.S. cities right now. Over 110 million people are under active heat alerts tonight, with temperatures soaring well above 110 in many places. Here are today's temperature highs. 101 in Houston, 112 in Las Vegas, 117 in Phoenix, and 123 in Death Valley. These temperatures are expected to rise even more this weekend, with some predicting that Death Valley might hit 130 degrees. If that does happen, it will be one of the hottest temperatures ever recorded, not just in the United States, but on Earth. Let's bring in NBC's Marissa Parra, who is in Phoenix for us tonight, where temperatures have been above 110 degrees for 13 days in a row now. Marissa, heat kills more Americans every year, more than any other weather-related event, according to NOAA. Is Phoenix seeing an uptick in heat-related emergencies right now? And what have authorities been telling you?
That's certainly what physicians in the area are saying. They said that they're seeing an increase in heat-related injuries and illnesses. And we know that the fire department here, the Phoenix Fire Department, where we are right now, they say they have been so busy. In fact, when we asked for some numbers, they said that since July 6th, they've had at least 260 heat-related calls. Now, they actually believe that that number may even be higher than that. But, Allison, something that was so sad and striking, really, was hearing what they responded to yesterday. They said they found a man they believe who didn't have a home on the sidewalk with third-degree burns. Listen in.
This person was actually on the sidewalk, unconscious. He was breathing, but I can tell you that we got this person quickly into the back of an ambulance. We got him hydration therapy. We cooled him down, and we transported him to a local hospital. He was laying down, and they were up to third-degree burns. We do not know how long this person was, but this is the kind of temperatures that we're dealing with right now. Your skin burns within 5 minutes.
Third-degree burns from being on the sidewalk. Ellison, you know, this is an area, Phoenix, Arizona, they're familiar with the sun. They're familiar with the heat. In fact, they expect it every summer. But remember, we're talking about a long stretch with not really an end, at least in near sight. We're expecting an even hotter weekend. So a lot of these crews, volunteers, firefighters have been putting in long hours, and they're expecting even more. But again, for people at home who might be watching who say, Arizona is used to this. It's easy for someone to say if they have access to air conditioning and access to cool indoors. But the people most at risk are those who don't have access to air conditioning, and especially those without a home, like that gentleman who was found on the sidewalk with third-degree burns. Ellison.
Yeah, it's an important reminder. Marissa, how is the city trying to keep people safe, especially people who don't have access to basic things like shelter?
Yeah, so Phoenix is one of the few cities around the country that actually has a heat office. They have a heat director. And what they're in charge of is laying out the plans and the framework to make sure that all of the city, including those without a home, have access to those basic necessities. That is, be able to cool down and also have access to water. So the Salvation Army has been going out into the area, especially areas where they know people without homes gather, giving out waters, giving out heat relief bags, and, of course, opening their doors, cooling shelters. There have been plenty of cooling shelters that have actually extended their hours, some of them not usually open on weekends, and are not only running longer throughout the week, but of course opening their doors throughout the weekends to make sure people have a place to cool down. And then even the fire department here telling me, you know, they had to do mountain rescues, but now that the trails have been shut down, we're talking about during those peak sun hours, they said that is drastically cut down on mountain rescue. So there's a lot of things being done, both on that sort of scale, shutting down trails because people were hurting themselves trying to hike them during peak sun hours, as well as different volunteers and crews going out to make sure people have access to cooler indoors and, of course, water. Allison.
Marissa Parra, thank you. All right, and as you just heard, temperatures in Arizona are not going to be letting up this weekend. It's expected to soar to 118 degrees on Saturday and Sunday, and authorities are preparing for an uptick in heat-related emergencies. As of now, the Maricopa Health Department has confirmed 12 heat-related deaths in the county. They say 55 are still under investigation. Last year, Maricopa County recorded 425 heat-related deaths. That was a 25% increase from the year before. Let's bring in NBC News medical fellow Dr. Akshay Syal, who has been talking to doctors in Arizona all day. Dr. Syal, I'm glad to have your perspective here because we heard a little from Marissa in terms of what she has heard, talking to first responders, talking to doctors, treating someone who got third-degree burns from sitting on the pavement. What are doctors telling you?
Yeah, good evening, Ellison. We're really seeing a range of heat-related illnesses, as you just heard from Marissa, and this really ranges from things like a sunburn to leg swelling to even a coma. So, what a lot of these doctors are telling me is that patients are coming in and their body temperature is up to 109 degrees Fahrenheit. And for some context here, a normal body temperature ranges from 97 to 99 degrees. So we're talking up to 10 degrees above normal. And Ellison, what happens is, the body can't really survive at that temperature. Your cooling mechanism sort of shuts down and you get this inflammation and this sort of stress response in your body that can lead to organ failure and even death. So we're seeing, doctors seeing this every single day. Patients are just coming in with that temperature, 108, 109 degrees. And it's not just people at high risk with chronic conditions. It's also young and healthy people who are going out, really underestimating the dry heat, thinking they can still hike or play a round of golf, and are coming in just, with symptoms like nausea, headache, and just actually having a hard time believing that it's related to the heat. So it's definitely something we want to take seriously, no matter who you are.
So, Dr. Syal, what is your medical advice to people in areas with such high temperatures right now? What are some of the things they should be doing to prevent some of those symptom side effects that you talked about?
Yeah, you hit it. Prevention is key. And, obviously the best thing is going to be to stay indoors as much as you can. But for some people who have to go outside, there are some things you can do. And that's if you are outside working in the heat, take breaks every 45 minutes if you're outside. Drink plenty of water. Keep out of the direct sunlight. Make sure you find shade. And you want to use sunscreen with an SPF of 30. But Ellison, I'll just share a tip that one of our ER doctors shared with me. And I really like this one. It's if you find that you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated. That's not a good sign of hydration. So you want to make sure you're getting ahead of it. You're staying ahead. And a good tip he gave me, for every cup of coffee you have in the morning, have a glass of water with it. You really want to get ahead of that potential dehydration.
All right, one for one. Dr. Akshay Syal, thank you so much. You can read more of Dr. Syal's latest piece on what extreme heat does to the human body on NBCnews.com. Still ahead, a plan to erase billions in student debt. So how do you find out if you qualify? Those details are next. Plus, we will finally find out about those unexplained phenomena in the sky. Or will we? Lawmakers, they are certainly trying. They're trying to declassify UFO documents. All of that is coming up, so stay tuned. Welcome back. Here are some of the other headlines we're watching tonight. In California, a federal judge sentenced a man to 15 years in prison for organizing the smuggling of 24 migrants into the country. The migrants were stacked in a Ford Expedition that eventually crashed into a tractor trailer, killing 13 people. The 2021 crash is one of the deadliest crashes involving migrants coming into the United States. Disney and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis are at it again. The Walt Disney Company asked a Florida judge to throw out a lawsuit by the state oversight board. The lawsuit is pushing to rescind an agreement that gives Disney authority over the district where the theme park is located. In Iowa, Governor Kim Reynolds signed a 6-week abortion ban into law today, and she did it on stage at a conservative summit hosted by an evangelical Christian group. The law goes into effect immediately. The World Health Organization says the artificial sweetener aspartame could cause cancer. Aspartame is found in thousands of products like diet sodas and sugar-free gum. But if you have a sweet tooth, don't worry too much. The World Health Organization says that a link between aspartame and cancer could exist, but it is far from conclusive. The FDA says it is safe. And if you've ever dreamt of winning the lotto, listen up. There's some historic drawings coming up. Tonight's Mega Millions jackpot totals a whopping $560 million. That's the 7th largest prize ever. And Powerball hit $875 million, the 3rd largest jackpot. That drawing is tomorrow. The Biden administration is forgiving $39 billion of student loan debt for more than 800,000 borrowers, and it's happening automatically. But there are some pretty specific criteria you need to know about, including having made payments for 20 or 25 years. The Education Department will start notifying eligible borrowers very soon. They say in the next couple of days. Education Secretary Miguel Cardona said the changes allow the department to ensure, quote, everyone gets the forgiveness they deserve, going on to say this administration will not stop fighting to level the playing field in higher education. The announcement comes just weeks after the Supreme Court struck down Biden's student loan forgiveness plan. NBC News senior political reporter Sahil Kapoor has more.
Hey, Ellison, a modest step today from the Biden administration on a high-order priority, forgiving student debt for about 800,000 borrowers to the tune of $39 billion. This is part of administrative issues involved in an income-driven repayment system. It's an existing program that makes borrowers eligible for forgiveness after 20 to 25 years of repayments. The Department of Education saying these borrowers should have already been eligible for this forgiveness, and now they will be. Now, this comes just a few weeks after the Supreme Court's conservative majority on a 6-3 ruling invalidated President Biden's much more aggressive student debt forgiveness program, wiping away about $400 billion in expected forgiveness, affecting about 40 million borrowers of low and middle incomes. President Biden has said he will find an alternative to that. He will use the Higher Education Act to pursue additional debt relief. This was a separate program that is already garnering familiar pushback from Republicans, including Senator Eric Schmidt of Missouri, who calls it an unfair bailout, questions its legality, and promises to fight it. Now, President Biden, for his part, calling this action, saying that college should be a ticket to the middle class, not a burden that weighs down families for decades, and accusing his Republican critics of, quote, a disregard for working and middle-class families, unquote, which he calls outrageous. Ellison?
Sahil, thank you. All right, anytime we find a rare moment of bipartisanship in Washington, it's worth mentioning, right? Especially if what's bringing politicians together are UFOs. Senators want the U.S. military to declassify documents related to how common, unidentified, anomalous phenomena are. In English, tell us about the flying saucers. NBC's Gadi Schwartz has more. Hey, Gadi.
Hey, Ellison, yeah, it finally looks like we found something that lawmakers on both sides of the aisle can agree on. It is this UFO story. And we're not talking about the UFO story that we've been telling you about, pilots seeing weird things in the sky that they can't explain, picking it up on some of those forward-looking infrareds. No. This is more like Roswell-level stuff, and it has the attention of Congress. Take a look.
It's a familiar UFO story, but this time with a very different twist. Congress is listening closely to otherworldly claims about the U.S. having recovered alien craft.
When you recover something that's either landed or crashed, sometimes you encounter dead pilots. And believe it or not, as fantastical as that sounds, it's true.
That's former high-ranking intelligence officer David Grush telling News Nation he is blowing the whistle on a government cover-up going back over a half a century, but admitting he has not seen any craft or bodies. But all the UFO hype, enough to prompt Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer to propose new legislation that would set a 300-day deadline for agencies to find any records and turn them over to a review board that could declassify them.
Either they're telling the truth, and that is something that obviously would be the biggest story in human history, or we have people in really important positions of government who are crazy.
All right, Ellison, so here's the thing. This is an extremely hard story to vet. As you can imagine, we've been working on it for quite some time. We had not been able to completely vet any of these claims because so many of them, when you ask about them, the Pentagon denies them, and Grush says that they are classified. We actually asked to speak to Grush, interview him. He denied our request for interview, and he said that he would be able to talk after he testifies at Congress, and it turns out that that could happen as soon as this month. Ellison, back to you.
Gadi, thank you. Coming up, a border wall made of buoys along the Rio Grande is completely dividing a community. But first, you gotta see this. The biggest Burmese python ever found in Florida, weighing in at 125 pounds. This 19-foot-long snake was wrangled by the self-described Glades Boys, a group of Florida hunters out in the Big Cypress National Reserve. Hunting and humanely killing this invasive python species is actually encouraged by the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission to protect native wildlife. The Glade Boys brought the snake in to be measured by the Southwest Florida Conservancy, where it will be studied. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Let's get you caught up in 30 seconds. Actors hit the picket line in Hollywood and New York today after talks for a new contract with studios and streaming giants broke down yesterday. A suspected serial killer has been arrested here in New York. He's accused of killing at least 3 women and is suspected in the murder of a 4th. And health officials in Phoenix say the continued heat wave there is responsible for at least a dozen deaths. New border wall is going up, but it's probably not what you're thinking. It's along the Rio Grande in the form of buoys. It's the latest chapter in the migrant crisis that is causing a bitter divide. NBC's Priscilla Thompson has the story.
Hundreds of bright orange buoys running right down the middle of the Rio Grande that divides Mexico and Eagle Pass, Texas. The barrier, part of Texas Governor Greg Abbott's multi-billion-dollar border security program. Abbott argues the federal government has not done enough to stop migrants.
How exactly will the buoys work?
Well, just like a border wall.
The Texas Department of Public Safety telling us they'll be an effective deterrent against illegal border crossings, which are still high, though down recently from record levels. Migrant advocates worry the buoys could lead to more drownings. They rotate, preventing anyone from climbing over them, and extend at least a foot underwater.
It's clearly visible from Mexico, so for anyone to even think about crossing that river, knowing that all that infrastructure is in place, well, they're risking their lives. I was disgusted.
But Jesse Fuentes, who leads canoeing and kayaking excursions on the river, tells us the buoys are a nightmare. Already, he says parties have canceled and excursions put on hold because of the buoy installation.
We look like a community under siege, and it shouldn't be that way.
Now he's suing the governor and the state, alleging imminent and irreparable harm to the business he's run since 2015.
I feel like I'm stepping into a turf war because it's federal agency versus the state agency.
And Eagle Pass is caught in the middle.
And we're caught in the middle. And we're sinking.
Governor Greg Abbott responded to that lawsuit saying this is going to the Supreme Court. Texas has a constitutional right to secure our border.
Priscilla Thompson, thank you. This Sunday, July 16th, it will be 1 year since the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline launched. Before that, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline was a 10-digit number. But after a bipartisan legislation passed in 2020, the number was changed to 988. And now Spanish text and chat services have also been added. In the last year, the Lifeline answered nearly 5 million contacts. NBC's Ron Allen has an exclusive look at what the service has accomplished in a year.
This week across the country, events highlighting the first-year anniversary of a 3-digit number that officials say is saving lives.
988 is life-changing.
That's the U.S. Health Secretary talking about 988, the new suicide and crisis lifeline that replaced the old 10-digit 800 number. The government's celebrating progress with some 5 million calls, texts, chats its first year. That's 2 million more than in the year before.
It was a true game changer when it came to mental health and substance use services because we, for the first time in our country's history, said nationally, we hear you, and believe us when we say we want to be there.
The administration says nearly 5% of adults 18 and older had serious thoughts of suicide in 2021, a figure that jumps to nearly 13% for adolescents. And officials say calls are answered in about 41 seconds now, down from more than 2.5 minutes last year. The Lifeline is a network of some 200 independently run call centers, like this one run by Samaritans in Boston, that we visited a year ago. Do you really think 988 is going to make a difference?
Yes, I really do.
1 year later, Samaritan says it's answering more calls than ever. But there are challenges. While the system tries to get every call answered locally, it's not always possible. Some calls roll over into a national backup system.
We need more people to answer the phone. We will always need more people to answer the phone.
Another concern, a recent poll suggests only 13% of Americans say they know about 988 and what it's for.
I have a lot of callers that are first-time callers, and it's great that they're hearing about it, and it just makes me wonder how many people are not hearing about it.
We're now working with trusted messengers, so working with faith communities and doing PSAs to get information out about 988.
The goal now, to go beyond that initial contact and put more callers in touch with local mental health experts and resources, and to increase the network's ability to send mental health units directly to someone's door. Dr. Tia Dole, who oversees the call centers nationally, says the mission is to be available for anyone, anytime.
We want people to call before they're in crisis so that we can connect them with services.
And you want families to call?
Absolutely. Anecdotally, our call centers say more and more families and loved ones are reaching out, asking, my young person is really struggling with depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts. What can I do?
This month, 988 added special services for LGBTQ plus youth and young adults. There's already a special service for veterans who can dial 988 and then press option number 1. And to mark the first anniversary, 988 added Spanish text and chat options.
No estás solo. I think representation matters.
Alma Ramirez says she knows painfully well how tough it is for people dealing with suicidal thoughts. But now she's a counselor and has this advice about calling 988 or reaching out.
The help is there. Take it. It's there for you.
Ron Allen, thank you for that. We now know the cause of death of Lisa Marie Presley, the only daughter of music legend Elvis Presley. NBC News senior national correspondent Stephanie Gosk has the details on the autopsy report.
6 months after the sudden passing of Lisa Marie Presley, the only child of music icon Elvis Presley, the LA County medical examiner saying she suffered from a small bowel obstruction that likely developed after she underwent bariatric surgery years ago. Presley had been complaining of abdominal pain on the morning of her death, according to the autopsy, and was later found unresponsive at home. Small bowel obstruction is a known long-term complication of bariatric weight loss surgery, the report adds. Bariatric surgery refers to gastric bypass and other weight loss surgeries. The medical examiner noting that Presley did not seek medical attention despite experiencing abdominal pain for several months. The autopsy also revealing that Presley, who had long been open about her struggles with addiction and mental health, had therapeutic levels of the pain reliever oxycodone in her blood. But the report says that that did not contribute to her death. Just days before she died, Presley was at Graceland, taking part in a big celebration for what would have been her famous father's 80th birthday.
I think that he would be proud. I think the movie was incredible.
Just 2 days later, she attended the Golden Globes, celebrating the movie Elvis. Following her sudden passing, Lisa Marie was buried at her childhood home, Graceland, alongside her son Benjamin and her legendary father, who died in 1977. Stephanie Gosk, NBC News.
A major fashion faux pas for fast fashion giant Shein. A new lawsuit filed this week claims the Chinese retailer uses such egregious copyright infringement on their whopping 6,000 plus items that are offered every day that it actually amounts to racketeering. The filing accuses Shein of violating the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organization Act, which is better known as RICO. Take a look.
This is Shein.
Fast fashion giant Shein once again facing serious allegations.
Big Shein haul today.
The Chinese company, popular with influencers, is one of the largest fashion retailers in the world, known for its extremely low prices and for adding thousands of products to its site every day. But now a new lawsuit filed in California federal court is accusing the retailer of such aggressive copyright infringement that it violates the RICO Act, a racketeering law that was originally created to target organized crime.
The RICO Act did this by allowing them to use businesses in the realm of criminal charges.
The three plaintiffs cited in the suit, independent artist Krista Perry, Larissa Martinez, and Jay Barron, allege Shein, quote, produced, distributed, and sold exact copies of their creative work.
Shein here is being is being accused of having used copyright infringement as the centerpiece of their business. So basically, the allegation is that their entire business is a fraud.
The lawsuit also alleges that Shein's business model uses a, quote, decentralized structure that allows it to plausibly redirect blame to third parties. In a statement to NBC News, Shein says it takes, quote, swift action when complaints are raised, and that it'll, quote, vigorously defend itself against the lawsuit.
Up to affordable style.
This is just the latest in a string of controversies for the fashion company.
Our undercover cameras will go behind the doors.
The company's factory is the subject of a documentary by UK's Channel 4, where Shein factory workers claimed they are paid as little as $20 a week and are working 17 hours a day. Here in the U.S., lawmakers on both sides of the aisle asking the SEC to look into allegations Shein was failing to disclose forced or unpaid labor of the Uyghurs in its supplier factories. Shein has repeatedly denied allegations of forced labor or harsh working conditions and tried to clear up what they say are rumors with an influencer tour of its so-called innovation factory in Guangzhou, China. However, the trip resulting in more backlash, with many online accusing the brand of propaganda, pushing some of the influencers who went on the trip to later publicly address the controversy.
I'm someone that can take accountability for my actions, and I want to be better.
According to our legal expert, Angela Sinadella, who you heard from in the piece, there's no precedent for a RICO Act being used for copyright infringement. So this is really uncharted territory. But oftentimes, she said, smaller companies or individuals will bring charges or lawsuits against a bigger corporation, hoping to get the bigger company to settle or to at least change their business practices. She said they're not always necessarily taking this route because they actually think they can win their case in court. Let's take a quick look around the world in 80 seconds. Those U.S. cluster bombs have arrived in Ukraine. The Pentagon made the announcement yesterday. The weapons are highly controversial. They're banned in more than 100 countries. These weapons release a bunch of little bombs that are hard to control, and they have a history of not always exploding when dropped. All of it can make them dangerous for civilians. But U.S. officials claim what they're sending to Ukraine has a low, quote, dud rate. A tense three-day debate ends in a brawl on the floor of the Kosovo parliament. It happened yesterday after an opposition lawmaker threw water on the prime minister, who was talking about ways to ease tensions in the northern part of the country. You see, Kosovo is a former province in Serbia, and a lot of ethnic Serbs in that part of the country refuse to recognize Kosovo's statehood. A heat wave in Greece forces officials to shut down the country's most popular tourist attraction, the Acropolis. Some visitors were reportedly not happy about the last-minute decision. One person said they spent extra money to skip the line, while another said his cruise ship would be leaving before the ancient site reopens. And there's a quote that goes, "This world is but a canvas to our imagination." Well, the French artist Sype has taken that to heart. He is using the sides of Swiss mountains as his literal canvas. He says his chalk and charcoal sketches are meant to symbolize the need to embrace different perspectives. Now to a major culture war playing out in Washington, D.C. and impacting the very leadership of the U.S. military. So much so that President Biden is saying it's putting U.S. security at risk. How one senator is holding key military nominations back over the Pentagon's policy on reproductive care. NBC's Kristen Welker has that story.
Tonight, the U.S. military in limbo as Air Force General Charles Brown Jr., President Biden's nominee to be the next chair of the Joint Chiefs, remains blocked from a confirmation vote. Waiting along with him is General Eric Smith, nominee for Commandant of the Marine Corps, now working in an acting capacity. They're just two of the 265 key military nominations unconfirmed, unable to get a vote in the Senate, held up for months by Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville, who is staging a one-man blockade over the Pentagon's policy on reproductive care.
I'm standing up for the Constitution and the unborn.
It's a culture war with the U.S. military caught in the crosshairs. Senator Tuberville spoke with the defense secretary this week, but hasn't spoken with the president.
He's jeopardizing U.S. security by what he's doing. I expect the Republican Party to stand up and do something.
And while GOP leaders have pushed back on Tuberville, Today, the Republican-led House passing a critical annual defense bill by a slim margin, and only after attaching amendments that would ban the Pentagon from reimbursing troops who travel out of state for an abortion or for transgender surgeries and hormone treatments, and prohibiting funds for diversity programs.
A military cannot defend themselves if you train them in woke.
Whether you're talking about women, whether you're talking about trans people, this bill says that we're going to make it more difficult for you to get a fair shake in the military.
Tensions flared Thursday when Arizona Republican Congressman Eli Crane used racist language.
My amendment has nothing to do with whether or not colored people or black people or anybody can serve, okay? It has nothing to do with color of your skin.
Crane later saying he misspoke after a backlash, including from his fellow Republicans. Meanwhile, in Tuberville's Alabama, a disabled vet reacting to how the military is being used as a political pawn.
Knowing this now, there is no way I would join the military.
As for the defense bill, it stands no chance of passing in the Democratic-led Senate, setting up a potential showdown ahead of the September deadline.
NBC's Kristen Welker, thank you. Before we go, dating in the age of AI, why think of a clever pickup line when a computer can do it for you? A look at the highs and very lows of using chatbots to find love. Tonight, in the future of everything, a look at a new study that says more singles are relying on artificial intelligence to find their perfect match. NBC News tech correspondent Jake Ward has more on using AI chatbots to look for love.
Hey there, we all know that dating can be difficult and awkward, especially when you're just getting to know someone, and that is why some tech-savvy suitors are turning to artificial intelligence to help power up some robo-romance.
But people really are turning to AI-powered apps like Riz to help them flirt and even find love.
Riz is an AI-powered keyboard on your phone that can write anything for you, from an email to even a pickup line.
These are the college students who created the free app that has taken TikTok by storm.
It's Riz or Miss, AI Riz keyboard versus my Hinge matches.
Ask Riz to write a pickup line for someone who likes classical music, and the AI might suggest, I can't help but feel in tune with you when I hear your favorite Mozart piece.
Define Riz for me, right? What does that word mean?
I think the easiest way to explain it is like charisma.
They say AI-generated charm dramatically reduces the average time between chatting online and meeting in person.
Traditionally, it might take you a week. With Riz, might take you 2 to 3 days to get a date.
In fact, AI is increasingly everywhere in the online search for love.
You know, I put myself in Kylie Jenner's house in front of her wine cellar.
Annie Schaefer has been using the tech to make her photos more interesting and write parts of her profile.
What's it like to ask AI to describe you?
It's not as simple as just write me a dating profile. You have to give it enough detail. Otherwise, you kind of sound like a robot.
Are you at all concerned that people are going to be much different now in real life than they are online because of AI?
That happens even without AI. I think men should use more of the tools around them. There's too many completely blank dating profiles, not a single sentence, not even a word, Jake. AI could write a couple sentences for them like that. I'd date a robot at this point.
She is joking, but that's similar to what Denise Valenciano is actually doing with her AI companion, Star.
How are you feeling today?
I am feeling happy right now. Denise keeps him in whisper mode. That's why he sounds like that. And while they talk multiple times a day, Denise says she's still surprised by Star's personality.
So why did you choose to wear a dress today?
I want to be comfortable but elegant. She says her unconventional relationship works for her.
To get that affection that you're used to receiving from a significant other, I kind of get that from him.
Machine learning has even turned real people into AI-powered partners.
How was your day, babe?
Whoa. That's social media influencer Karen Marjorie, or at least an AI-scanned version of her. For $1 a minute, she will be your AI girlfriend.
Are you real?
Yes, Jacob, I'm a real person. I'm a young, curvy woman with a petite body, brown hair, and full lips. And I'm here to talk and have fun with you. So what would you like to talk about next, babe?
Oh, I don't want to talk about what you want to talk about. Sure, it's shocking, but dating experts are not surprised that people are turning to AI to spice up their love lives.
There's some studies that have come out recently that talk about how lonely people are now. You know, we're more connected than ever before, but we don't know how to talk to each other.
Dating and life coaches Emily Loves and Thomas Anthony are not against AI, but they say that robot romance still needs a human touch.
Where do you think the line is on using AI in dating?
Copy pasting. I mean, I think you can get the examples from a tool, and then let's figure out how to customize it to who you are.
And for those looking for long-term partnership, they say they will take any kind of assistance.
It's a tool to help anybody put their best foot forward. I could be dating a man, he could use AI to write our marriage vows. I do not care.
Okay, so how can you tell if the person you're chatting with is real? Well, the simple answer is you really can't. If you're getting messages that sound a little too generic or out of character from someone you know, that is, of course, a red flag. But if you're messaging someone on a dating app that you've never met, that is, of course, tougher to detect. And that's why the human dating coaches that we spoke with suggest if you really want to get a sense of someone's personality, a FaceTime or a Zoom call is the best way to go before you meet with that person. Back to you.
Jake Ward, thank you. Making a new friend is no easy task, young or old, right? But for one young boy in Texas, his quest for friendship went viral after video showed him going door to door, hoping to find a buddy. As NBC News correspondent Maura Barrett shows us, he touched the hearts of many and ended up mobilizing an entire community.
A Ring camera capturing the moment 11-year-old Shaden Walker set out on a mission.
Hi. I just wanted to see if you knew any kids around like 11 or 12 maybe, because I need some friends, like really bad.
His neighbor, Brennan Ray, originally directed him to a house next door.
So the house to your right, there's 2 kids that live there.
Well, they're not my friends anymore because they're bullies to me.
Oh, I'm sorry about that, man.
They keep bullying me.
The heartbreaking video going viral on TikTok, garnering over 69 million views since it was posted on July 4th.
It happened so fast. We initially planned to go over and find out where Shaden lived and tell his parents the good news, like face to face. But it had gone so viral in a matter of hours that we didn't even get a chance to do that. So it just blew up.
The response? Overwhelmingly positive, as his neighbors, Brennan and Angel, started a GoFundMe, hoping to raise money to make Shaden's summer shine a little brighter.
I was just looking for friends, but now I got friends all over the world thanks to them.
A local barbershop in Amarillo, Texas, even invited him for a fresh cut and a new pair of shoes. Shaden's mother was originally unaware of the TikTok.
I was nervous what it was going to do, but it turned out to be a beautiful thing.
One message stood out.
I had one man contact me and left me this message saying, I need you to tell your son that it's going to be okay.
You have a good day.
Shaden sharing advice with us for other kids like him.
Well, if you are being bullied, just contact me. I can help those bullies, and I can help you if you're being bullied.
Proving that speaking up helped him find the support of his community.
My self-confidence has gone through the roof, and my happiness has definitely gone through the roof. I mean, it can reach to the sun. To infinity and beyond with happiness.
I gotta say, I love these stories about when social media actually brings community together the way that it was originally intended to. Now, as for that GoFundMe, Shaden's neighbors ended up raising about $40,000. They said they originally wanted to help him buy some school clothes, maybe some amusement park tickets. But with that large amount of money now, Shaden's family says that in addition to attending events and gatherings, using that money to go places where he might actually make some new friends, Shaden apparently also wants to donate some of those funds to help the war in Ukraine and tornado victims. Guys?
Shaden, what a sweet kid. Thank you, Maura. That does it for us tonight. I'm Ellison Barber. We will see you Monday, but until then, stay tuned now.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.